Welcome to episode 117 of the Loane Hockey Podcast. For today, we're going to be talking about some standouts from a game going on right now between Dallas and Florida, the second game of the Global Series in Finland. And so we talked about the matchup yesterday and how Florida played really well yesterday. And building off that, the game's tied at 2 right now. It's in the midst of the second. And just wanted to get some standouts thus far. In terms of Dallas's side, we talked about him yesterday, but Matt Duchene, he's looked really good to start the season. And with Duchene, he's a guy that stands out offensively as a playmaker and his ability to find pass seams and how he's able to maneuver around opponents really well. And he's really skilled at being able to outmaneuver guys and being able to use his feet and being able to use his hands. And then with Duchesne, what's really intriguing is his dual threat ability and how he uses that in the ozone and how he can leverage the attack in his way. And he's really skilled on the puck and being able to create offense, obviously, and being able to generate in a variety of ways. And then Evgeny Dodonov is actually really good this game so far. And Dodonov, he already has a goal in the game, and he's looked really good offensively and looked really good around the net, really good at creating chances and being able to get to loose puck opportunities when necessary. And Dodonov's a guy who he can play anywhere from a top line complementary role to a fourth line role. So he can move up and down all four lines for Dallas, and he's a guy that fits a lot of different areas for Dallas as well. So he can complement any single line that he's on and build chemistry with every player. And he's got an underrated touch of skill, like I said, in and around the net and how he's able to generate from there as well. Thomas Harley's looked really good throughout this game and how he's able to be an offensive minded defenseman, how he's able to join the rush, join the attack, and how he can leverage that to the best of his ability. And Harley's a guy who plays offensive minded, but he's brought better two-way play over the course of time in the NHL. And it's taken him a little bit more time to adapt to defensive zone play and being able to understand check changes and stuff like that. But with him, he's gotten much better at being able to play man on man coverage and being able to shift to that and be able to defend one on one much better as well. And his line rush defense has obviously improved and taken some strides forward as well. And then Miro Heiskanen has looked better this game and slower start to the season for him in some ways, but at the same time, all the players they usually find a way to get out of these slumps. And with Heiskanen, he's a guy that can get up to a point per game mark. And he's really skilled as a defenseman. And he's a really skilled two-way D, but he's also a really skilled offensive-minded defenseman who can play in many different situations. And he's a guy who can be relied upon steadily as a two-way defenseman as well. And so with Heiskanen, I notice him a lot in many different situations with his transition play and how noticeable he is at transitioning the puck with pace and purpose. And he's just really exciting to watch all across the board. And then Wyatt Johnson is another one we'll get to, and the final one we'll get to on Dallas' side right now. And he's continued to look better and better season by season. And it's really remarkable to watch given that he wasn't drafted super high a few years ago. And ever since coming into the NHL, he's only continuing to get better. And with his playmaking ability, you saw in the playoffs last year how much of a threat he was and how much of an offensive dynamic style player he was. And he was engaged in many different situations in the ozone in the playoffs, and that's really translated into this season thus far. And he's been playing really well and lighting it up offensively, and a guy who can play inside their top six pretty much regularly now. So he's a guy who's a marquee player for them, really important player for them and their overall offensive core. And then for Florida, I don't know how you say his first name. It might be Uvis Balinskis. He's actually looked really good this game as a guy who can play more of a bottom nine type role. And he plays with speed, plays with pace, plays with forechecking ability, and he plays with agility within his feet and how he moves. And he's got an assist in this game so far. He stood out. Alexander Barkov, same thing, has looked really good with his feet, really good with his hands. One assist so far. And like we mentioned yesterday, he's a real leader on this team and he's a real key piece of this team. And then Nico Mikkola has actually looked really good this game as well. And I've noticed him a lot more And he's more of a shutdown-minded defenseman, more of a defensive-minded defenseman, but at the same time, he showcases his offense in some ways, more so on the transition offense side in certain situations. And in the O zone, he's not really that bad at being able to walk the line laterally because he's got range to his feet. He's a bigger player, so he can move a little bit more freely, and he's got that agility within his feet. And then we'll get to Matthew Tkachuk. And Matthew Tkachuk, we know Matthew Tkachuk has played so well for this Panthers team ever since he arrived. He's always stood out. He's always continued to get better. And he plays so competitively on the puck and without the puck, trying to get to loose pucks and trying to create opportunities for his team. So with Tkachuk, he's a guy you notice him as a two-way winger as well, and not necessarily a dynamic style player, I would say, but dynamic in the sense of how he can change the game and how he can change the atmosphere of the game. And it's one of the most unique qualities when it comes to him is his ability to change the atmosphere, whether it be with a hit or a check or a fight or a goal or something. He can do a little bit of everything, and that's what's really noticeable about him is how he can do everything, and he does it so well. And he's such a key component to this Panthers team all across the board as well.